for me, spirituality isn't a belief. It's almost identical to consciousness. So the more spiritual you are, the more conscious you are. And the less spiritual you are, the less conscious you are. And apart from that, I just don't know. You know, I can say religious, and that means the more, you know, dogmas you believe, the more you're involved in spiritual practice, and the more cultic you are. But the more spiritual you are, it's just the more, how much awareness, what consciousness do you have? Anybody practicing a form of contemplative or spiritual practice knows, sooner or later, that there's something in you that is conscious of everything, all the time. There's something in you right now that's noticing every single sound that's arising. There's something in you right now that every single sight in this room is spontaneously arising in your awareness. Every single thing that's happening right now is occurring spontaneously in your consciousness. You don't have to make any effort for this to happen. You don't have to make any effort to get in touch with God, any more than you have to make an effort to see this room, or an effort to feel the chair, or an effort to hear my voice. All of that is spirit given in this moment. And it exists no place else than in your consciousness right now, moment to moment. The more you can rest in that ever-present condition, then the more conscious you are. And you continue to rest in that resting ever-presence will persist through all changes of state. Right now, it might persist for 2 or 3 minutes. When you practice with Roger, it might persist for a half hour this afternoon or more. As you continue to practice, it will persist into the dream state and then into the deep sleep state. And then with a shocking recognition of that which you've known all along, it will simply come back to this. This is an ever-present consciousness that you can't avoid. And that spiritual awareness is not hard to attain. It is impossible to avoid. But a good definition of the ego is the capacity in us to deny the obvious. And so what karma yoga or spiritual practice is a way to actually practice the obvious by simply finding ways to constantly recognize that which is already accomplished. And that great perfection in which everything is arising moment to moment. And if you look very closely, as it arises, it sparkles just a little bit. It's transparent as it arises in this very effortless space that is your own self, or your own awareness right now. There's a paradoxical trick about all of that, which is that as obvious as it is to you right now, that there is a witness in you that's seeing everything and hearing everything, as obvious as it is right now that this is exactly who you are. If we started watching a movie or started eating or started going to work, you would start to forget it. In other words, the ego would start this clever game of pretending that it doesn't have any feet, pretending it doesn't have a nose, and pretending it doesn't have arms, and so on. So the obviousness of the ever-present condition that you are tends to, precisely because it's so obvious, slip away on occasion. That's part of the game of hide and seek in terms of finding out who you are and why you started the great game of forgetting who you are. And why you're coming to things like this to kind of go tag you're it. Traditionally, things like karma yoga are ways to take whatever initial recognition or realization or taste of spirit or satori or awakening, and in a sense extend the time that you can rest in that recognition of the utterly obvious. And as many of you know who have practiced meditation, if you actually get into a meditative state, perhaps of witnessing or perhaps of non-dual one taste, and everything is completely obvious, you know exactly in that moment who and what you are, because you know this, you know the isness of this moment that can't be denied. And you get up from the meditation mat, and then it's just the clock is running. And it's like, how long before you forget that? So karma yoga, by any definition, is extending that period of recognizing the obvious. And that means being able to carry it into relationships, carry it into work, carry it into life, and then the ultimate test, taking it home to Christmas with your family. And the moment you can actually pass all of those tests, then it's good.